that's because you're polishing the car when it needs an engine change. And what I mean by that is that the messaging is where it's at.
All right, Scott Bywater, you're here on Balls Deep. You're a very brave man.
Thank you.
I met Scott. It was about a few months ago, actually, at Ben Simpkins, the Mastermind. We had a live event, and I'd never met Scott before. But I got to tell you, he presented this presentation about copywriting, and it really inspired me. So having him on the show, I'm just really, really excited because copywriting is probably one of the foundational principles about getting results in marketing. So you're kind of the guy that makes it all work.
Yeah, the glue that holds it all together, I think. Any type of marketing, there's always copy in there somewhere. So yeah.
Actually, when I first started marketing, I really leaned into design. Design was my thing. And because I used to create stuff, I started when I was younger doing little newsletters, and because my parents had bought a printing business in a country town. And so I started learning Adobe PageMaker and all these sorts of softwares, Corel Draw and those days. And I really prided myself on how things looked. And that's what I thought marketing was. I thought it was about how you make it branded and look and make it jazz a little bit. Anyway, my first sort of marketing event, it kind of crushed my dreams and about who I was and the value that I offered to people, because I realized that the design really didn't do much. Here I was trying to be really good at that, and I got really offended because they're like, no, it's the copy, it's the words, it's the offer, it's the messaging and how you communicate to your target market. And I was crushed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the analogy I give, it's like if you walk into a networking event. So design, I think, is important because if you walk into a networking event, you're in shorts and you're in shorts and thongs and a shirt, and everyone else is in, a suit and tie, or they're in smart casual or whatever. It's the design automatically makes, people place a judgment on the way you design yourself in terms of the way you dress. So it's still important. Uh, However, if you look really good, you look the part, and then you start talking nonsense, then that's not going to cut through. If you don't look the part, but you can talk eloquently, you know your stuff, you can still even cut through if you're relevant enough to that particular audience. So I think they go hand in hand, but and I'm somewhat biased, but I think it's the copy and the messaging definitely overrides the design in terms of the level of importance.
Yeah, it's the chicken or the egg, and trying to work out what, I mean, depending on what you're selling or what your goal is, kind of determines where you go. I think another example was when I used to sell ovens and kitchen appliances. And the challenge when someone was doing a kitchen was, do they spend more of their budget on the cabinetry and get, the cabinet maker? They want to get the higher percentage of the budget, or does the appliance salesperson get more of the budget, the fridge and the range hood and cook, and so they've both got their own argument, because the appliance person will say, look, this is going to improve your food. This is the purpose of the room, right? But
Yep.
then the appliance guy will go, well, that's not the appliance. The cabinet maker will go, well, no, because you need storage, and you can always replace the oven, but you can't necessarily quickly replace the bench.
Yes.
So
True.
you're stuck with it.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and then they'll go, well, a stainless steel oven's a stainless steel oven.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what it is.
Yes.
And so therefore the game begins. And I think the same thing with this environment, because I look at Facebook ads, for example, today. 80% of the result is the creative. 80% of the result is effectively that image or video that you put there, and the copy or the primary text as such is being reduced to this little insignificant little line at the top.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, yeah. I think it's and I think with Facebook ads, it's because that part is the thing that stands out and that people actually see and they pay attention to.
Yep.
And I think, like direct response marketers like to uh I guess downplay design, but yeah, like I think at that event, Dante showed some examples on the screen, Dante Botha, and just what an impact that design can play. So I think it's always hand in hand. I don't ever think it's one thing. It's like a combination. Like when I go into like we stayed at there's a resort on the Gold Coast, the QT
Oh yeah.
resort. And I remember being there, and they've sort of prided themselves and positioned themselves on being quite edgy. So they're not like the Sheratons, which are quite, formal and like the old school. They're like upmarket, but they've got like a bit edgy. So the way they designed it all is quite funky and everything. And I thought if you took the design out of that when you walked into the reception, then and it was just and there was no design and there was nothing different about it. It would just be like any other hotel. So design does play a place in marketing. But I think for direct response stuff, the copy is what's going to, if you're a small business and you've got, you know, 20 grand to spend on marketing, the copy and you want to get 30 grand back or 50 grand back or 100 grand back, whatever it is, then the copy is what's going to allow you to do that in a scientific way.
It's like a really good salesperson either wearing a pair of Crocs and a singlet, or a really good salesperson in a suit and tie.
Exactly. I think that's really what it boils down to. And salesperson is such a good example because any copywriting is just salesmanship in print. That's what we're talking about. So it's like you need to understand your customer in depth and you need to be able to deliver a very powerful message to that customer is ultimately what you're doing when you're writing copy.
Mm. So when I was this is going back many years ago, I used to find that my brain would struggle to go where to start with the design or to start with the copy. And so, and I found both approaches could actually work and could work quite well. And for example, lead pages, when they started coming onto the scene, replacing optimized press back in the day, where optimized press was when you're really making coin.
Yeah.
And lead pages came about, and you couldn't edit the template. The template was the template, and you had to really think about the words or the copy that you were going to place within that, because you were confined by what was there. There was like 3 bullet points. All right, you're going to have 3 bullet points. You've got a headline, you've got a subheadline, and now you've got the constraints. So now it's the words. You don't think about the design, just the words. But then you've got the other side of the camp that would be like, all right, no, don't be limited by a design. Say what you need to say, and then get a designer or a template that matches what the copy needs to be. And
Yep.
so, have you had an experience with sort of both approaches, and do you have any thoughts between them?
I mean, I always like to. I always think you're better off leading with the copy. So let's say you're doing a website. You you want your and I see so many people. I did a video about this recently, and I've spoken with so many people, like with websites, for example, and they're like, "This is a third or fourth website I've built, and I still haven't got it right." And one of the things that I say to them is that's because you're polishing the car when it needs an engine change. And what I mean by that is that the messaging is where it's at. So for example, when we do web copy, we'll invest 5 hours actually in communication with that client before we write a word. Because it's actually copywriting is actually it's a wrong word because it's so little it's probably less about actual writing than it is about everything that surrounds the writing. And that's why ChatGPT And I see people who use ChatGPT, and it's so obvious because it's like so generic. Not to say you can't use ChatGPT and Claude and whatnot as a professional writer, but it's the strategy that goes around it that's so critical to the messaging. So, and what I mean by strategy is you want to go in like we talked about at Ben Simpkins' event. I talked about, yeah, the whole thing of interviewing your clients, which can be extremely valuable. Can be somewhat time consuming. So one of the other ways you can do is go in, and what we do is we get super clear on the core story, the unique selling proposition, and the core story often leads into the unique selling proposition. So, because that's what proves it, right? Like your background proves you can deliver a certain result that is unique to the client and what the client's looking for. So, you're getting clear on the core story and the unique selling proposition, all of the emotional drivers that drive that, that drive the potential client, and the avatar or avatars. You can have several avatars, not necessarily just one. So you're getting clear on all that before you even look at even interviewing the client for the copy. So, and that's what I mean. So if you want to do an engine change on any type of copy, go back to the positioning. And this is where most people, almost everyone, um, I would say 90% of business owners miss the mark and underplay that. And it's like designing a house. It's like building a house without designing it. You might end up with a house, but it probably won't be the house that you want.
Hmm. I think there's challenges in the way people think and the way that people work, because some people need to see something in order to know they like it.
Yep.
And I used to be very design centric. So if I had a Word document in front of me of the copy, I couldn't picture it on the website. I needed to see it on the website. I needed to know, we're going to have bullet points here. That's what that copy's for. The headline's going to go here. And the imagery for that. Are you not a visual person when you're doing copy?
I think one of the things I do, like I will often show someone the copy, because I'll show people when I'm showing them what I do, right? And I'll show them this Word doc, and it's like, yeah, some of the Word docs we do are over 100. Like we did one last week. It's over 100 pages. It's quite a long web copy, but they go deep, right? And some of them like 40, 50, 60, 80, whatever pages. So they're like mini books that we're creating. So I will show a client and I'll say, listen, if you look at this, it looks really intimidating. But if you work with a good designer, so if you're working with a good copywriter who knows how to sell, it is important to work with a good designer, because if you look at that on a Word doc, it looks super intimidating. So my thing is, I wouldn't say I'm not design centric in terms of I'm not someone who knows how to dress in like a super fashionable way, or knows how to who knows or goes into a home and knows how to interior design it. Like that's not my skill set. But I work with good people who can do good design. So I tend to stick to my alley, and then someone else sticks to their alley. And when you put great copy with great design, you get the best of both worlds.
It sounds like building a house, and I think I've thought about this metaphor before. You're like the architect with the plans and the drawings, and then you go to a builder, and they're like, this is how, and that won't work here, but we'll use this part here, and we'll be able to get these supplies and make that sort of how you want. But you've got the two experts in their field kind of doing their thing, because the architect has no idea about. I mean, maybe have some idea, but they're nowhere near as experienced or aware of the building limitations or supply chain and how they're going to do it. They just know what they want, as opposed to the builder. They'd be like, this is how we're going to use those plans, and this is how I'm going to make it look, and we're gonna do this.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. And I give that analogy quite a bit, in terms of you've got you got to get the plans right first and know what you're creating by getting that messaging sort of clear before you then go and do the next stage. But you've also got your your two experts, like you got the builder and the architect. Now, if the builder and the because I work with a lot of builders, and if the builder and the architect aren't talking together in that process, then what happens is the architect goes out there and they do a design, which is what they're paid to do. But let's say the client's got a budget of $1 million to build a house, so they'll do a design, but the design might be 1.3 million or 1.4 million. Then the builder gets it back and he's like, this isn't going to work. Like we need to either cut it back. So then the client's like, I love my design, I love my house, and then they can't afford it, and they might end up not doing it. I think there's some statistic, I don't know, I'm not sure of the exact source, but I've heard people say like 75% of designs never actually go to actually building, for that very reason. So it's very important that you get a builder involved early with the designer or the architect in order to make sure it's a reality. I would say it's probably not that mission critical that the the writer and the designer are talking as it is with a building, because with a building, once you do something, it's very expensive to change, or it's a lot more clunky to make shifts. But it is important that, because I've written copy, and then the client would want to use a designer that I didn't know, and
Mm.
then it's like 3, 4, 5, 6 months later, it's still not designed, because they're used to designing really simple pages. They want to do a one-page design, or on the flip side, it just doesn't end up going live at all, and the designer puts up what they want to put up. So you have these sort of situations, which is quite similar with with construction.
But then the other connection would be, some people want a custom home, and other people are happy to get the house and land package.
Yep.
So I'm happy to get the one that you've designed, pre-designed, all ready to go, compared to I want something bespoke and I want something very specific to my needs. And your approach to copy is very customized. It's deep, and because I was so impressed by your method of interviewing customers and clients to go really deep behind the why and the motives and the fears and the desires, everything to do with how they're thinking, so you get a better picture, so you can write better copy. But I was just thinking about the usual process that people go through in business when they want to do marketing. I'm going to use a website, for example. You go to WordPress or Squarespace or Wix, whichever platform, and
Yep.
that's your house and land package,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yeah,
and
exactly.
the first question is, what design do you want?
Yes.
That's where you start. That's question one.
Yes. Yes.
Copies later.
Yep. Yep.
And it's like, oh, now I've got to fill it with words. Oh, we'll give you an AI tool and we'll let you just press a button and tell us what business you're in, and we'll just fill it in for you, and you can press go. And again, it comes back to what I was saying at the beginning, where I think we're very much that design first approach, where I pick what I'm trying to build and then I work out what I'm going to say.
Yes. And
Whereas,
that
yeah,
I would say is the way that most people think. Is they think design first. So they'll go, and this is why they build 3 and 4 websites, and they're like, I still haven't got it right. Because not necessarily, like I have worked with other people and the design got built first, and then we did the copy to fit in with the design. Like that can work. But most of the time, people go, I want a website, I go to a web designer. The problem is, most web designer, I wouldn't say all, but the majority of web designers, like they're two different skills, right? I can't design a website. Like that's not my skill set. On the flip side, most website designers have no idea about copy. So you're going to the electrician and expecting them to do your plumbing. It's not going to end well. And this is sort of what's happening out there, is people go, and we're just talking about web copy here as an example, but that's what's happening. We're going to the website designer and expecting it. It's impossible. They can't do it. It's not their skill set. Like, it's like me expecting me to build a house. I, I, I mean, I'm sure I could learn, but it would take me 5 or 10 years to actually learn. But if you ask me to do that today and have that house ready for you in 6 months, it's going to be an absolute disaster. And that's what's happening out there because people don't understand that you don't you don't go to if you need a website, step one, you get your positioning right. Step two, you work out the structure, which will be based on the positioning. So in terms of what pages should I create? So where are your customers coming from? Like I was speaking with a client earlier today, and he's like, he's a builder over in Colorado, and he's like, well, 70% of my clients are interstate, and I'm like, well, we need to have a page specifically for interstate people. Yeah, and your business might be, like, but you gotta actually go through those questions to make sure it's structured in the right way. So so once you've gone through that phase, then you've got to go through the actually working out what the sitemap is, and then you need to go deep and be deeply interviewed, or into to actually understand. So you've got the raw materials to create the copy from. Most times, the website designer goes, "Oh, build it," and they go to the client, "Oh, now we need some copy," or now they might do it themselves because you've got AI. But then it just sounds like generic slop. And what's the point, right? Like if your website looks exactly like all of your other competitors, I mean, what's the point? Everyone can use AI. Yeah, everyone can create generic slop. So if yours is generic slop, they're generic slop, and I get on there and I'm like, which generic slop do I want? And that's what I'm judging you on.
I love the word slop has become the thing, hasn't it? I've heard AI slop
Yeah.
everywhere at the moment. And I think it comes from professionals, people who know quality. And so they refer to it as slop because they can see it.
Yes. Yes. Well, you can see it because we sponsor events in the building industry all over the country. So before the event, I will go through and I'll look at all the members who are going and I'll look at their website so I can actually give them feedback on their website when I get there and or when I'm talking to them. And it's like there's it's not often I'm lost for words, but it's like most of the time it's very hard to find a good one that really stands out. And this is not unique to builders. This is right across the industry. Yeah, like this is right across all businesses. Yeah,
Mm.
because the work isn't being done up front. You've
Why do
got
you
to.
think that is?
I think it's a lack of education and a lack of
From where, though?
understanding.
Like, who's responsible for that education?
Well, like you think of the average person, they get into business. I'm a good, yeah, I'm a good baker. I'm a good builder. I'm a good whatever it is. So you hang out, you go, oh, I need a website. So no one's really, unless you're going to, events like, Ben's at the Mastermind, or you're going to educational type events that are on the cutting edge. You're not learning this from your average, you know, government business enterprise center or do you know what I mean? You're not likely to learn this sort of stuff. It's going to be very, oh, you need a website.
Mm,
Okay. Like you're not going to get that sort of deep information from unless you're going to the right sources.
yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating because I think I s- was with a podcast with Bernard Canavan. He's been in the industry for 30, 40 years in PR and design,
Yep.
right? Right. And I was talking about like functional versus something of quality. So like I just need it to do what I need it to do. So I just need a website. Cool. I'll get the template. I'll get someone on Fiverr or Upwork or someone from somewhere to put it together for me because I'm not a tech person
Yep.
and I need some copy for it. So I'll go to ChatGPT and Claude. I'll put that in there, and I'll have my website done in a day. I need some photos. Cool. I'll just go to Nano Banana. I'll just type some of the photos that I need, or might go to get some stock images. I'll put them in there. And away I go. I've got a patchwork quilt of my website, but it's functional.
Yep. Yep.
And even just saying that, it reminds me of Dan Kennedy when he talked about the method that people go through to do their marketing. So they'll go, I need to do a sign, or I need to do a flyer, I need to do an email. That's the step one. So they decide what they want to do. Then they go, cool, now what do I want to say? And so then they'll start to create their messaging and their headlines and what they want it to be. And then they'll go, now who do I want to target?
Yep.
So they'll do it in that order.
Yes.
But the correct order is actually the complete reverse.
It's 100%. And I think it's like, I don't know how to reverse that, because it's a way of thinking, right? And until you get that education, that's the way you think. So you go, oh, I need to do marketing. Really, you should be like, and most marketing agencies, I mean, a lot of marketing agencies do, but they do it very shallow. And this is one of the things I talked to talked about at Ben's event, was that they do it shallow in terms of, they do avatar, but it'll be like, often it's like this Mickey Mouse sort of avatar. It doesn't go deep, and it's like, oh, it's a uh, and I see this within within a lot when I'm talking to people. It's like, oh, my avatar's like a 35-year-old soccer mum, and she's really busy, and she's stressed, and it's like 40% of the population, right? So it's not going deep enough. It's not drilling deep enough. Like, I talk with a builder they were based in New Zealand, and like you've got to keep, when you do the avatar, you've got to keep unlocking and ask those deep questions. So
You got to go balls deep. You got to
go balls
deep.
deep, 100%. You got to go balls deep. And I like that analogy, because it's actually true. Because one of the things we did, they were positioning themselves just like a general builder. I'm like, where are your clients coming from? They're like, well, 80% of our clients are like their mum and dad developers. I'm like, well, I wouldn't have any idea of that by looking at your website. And so, and it turned out that they were developers themselves, and they had a really unique offering for developers. I'm like, we need to, like, everything you're doing now, we need to, like, shift it, and we need to make you the expert builder for developers. Because that is what. Now, if they had said only 20% of their business was that, I wouldn't have said go all in on development. But it just made so much sense. All of a sudden, they've got a blue ocean, rather than trying to sell against everyone else. So you've got to go. We've had other examples, similar example, uh, a builder up in the Sunshine Coast, and they had 80% of their business was from acreage builds, and they'd lived on acreage all their life. So it's like, okay, well, let's zone in very specifically, on that as a specific niche, because your core story matches it, and that's a business you're attracting anyway, organically, without even trying to attract it. That's what you're attracting. So it's unpacking that, to create an avatar, to create avatars which really stand out, I think, is the key. And then if you go into and you start interviewing your clients, then you're going layers and layers and layers and layers deeper. The issue is, like, 95% of people, they want to just run Facebook ads. Everyone's like, oh, I need to do marketing. Let's run Facebook ads. Then they run Facebook ads. They haven't done the positioning. They're not clear on, their core story, the USP, anything like that in terms of their branding. They don't have a decent landing page to send people to. They start running Facebook ads. It doesn't work. And then they go, oh, Facebook ads doesn't work for my
I
industry.
ran some Facebook ads. The problem must be the copy. And so then they'll go try and tweak it and fix it and they get the copywriting. So I think actually copywriting is the wrong word to determine really the value of, I mean, what you do. I mean, we call it copywriting, but copywriting sounds very functional. It sounds like it's a bit like it's just the words, you know what I mean? It's just the headline. Don't worry about it. Like, it's just fine. It's almost too blasé because effectively we're talking about the foundation of their marketing success, the foundation of everything. Because, you know, if you have the foundation wrong, it doesn't matter what you write, it doesn't matter what you make, it probably won't work and it'll be average. But you know, you could think everything that we have to build from that. You've got your emails, you've got your website, you've got your funnels or your landing pages, you've got your ads, you've got your sales scripts, you've got your your answering machine or whatever, you know, however you're prompting whatever system to answer the phone. That's written. Everything's written. And so the writing or the soul of it, I like that, the soul of it has
Yeah.
to sort of come from somewhere. And so rather than like going to the website person, then building a website and then working out, you know, putting it all together, flipping it on its head and going to someone who can actually create that foundation, understanding the direction, the blueprint, so to speak. That's step one, isn't it?
It is, and it's one of the reasons I'm actually in the process of rebranding to be like I'll still have copywriting that sells a business, but to be the strategist as a front point, because the strategy is what it's all about. Copywriting is is how you bring it all together. That's everything. But what it's about, see, most people, like, I speak with a lot of people and they're not bringing into, particularly in the building industry, they're not attracting the right quality of projects. Well, there's a process to do that. You know, you can't complain because people walk past your you know, place of business and it looks like a kebab shop, they're not calling you up and dropping in and saying, "Hey, can I have a 5-star meal?" Because you've got to have all of your positioning and your branding and everything there so that it attracts the 5-star meal. I see so many people, they complain they're getting flathead, but they're putting out bait for flathead, not bait for a marlin, as an
Mm.
example. Yeah, so you got to fish very differently depending on how you want to fish. And if you're after, I mean, I see a lot of people who are looking to sell high ticket services or, you know, stuff like construction or whatever, but they're advertising and they're marketing like they're trying to sell a toaster. You know, so so, so so it's very different, right? Like if you want to buy a toaster, you go in, it's $200. You don't really think about it much. Bang,
Two
here's
hundred
my credit
bucks,
card.
$15 from
Yeah,
Kmart. I
so,
reckon that's
yeah,
the
well,
one.
that's true.
Actually, I knew a guy. He, you know, fairly well off, and he had like the Miele or the AEG. I think he had AEG,
Yeah,
or the very expensive appliances. And
yes.
the thing that he was most proud of, if he took it out of the cupboard, was his $15 toaster from Kmart.
Oh, really?
Like this is it. This is where it's at.
Yeah, but there's such different decisions. Like if you want an expensive, like if you're spending $1 million and you're spending 15 or $200, totally different decisions. So if you want to sell in, if you want to get high quality leads in those sort of spaces, you need to play the game very differently. You need to play the game. If you want to get marlin, I'm not a fisherman, but I imagine you've got to do quite a bit of prep. You got to know where to go. You got to go out into the deep seas and at certain times, and you've got to do a lot more research than just tossing your fishing line off the shore and wheeling in a flathead or whatever. So they're very different games. So on the high ticket thing, a lot of people are like, oh, I get my leads from word of mouth or referrals or all of that sort of thing, which is fine, but not fine if you want scale and not fine if you want peace of mind, right? Because it's completely unpredictable. So you need to play a very different game. You need to do the lead magnets. You need to have email sequences going out. You've got to be patient because it takes time to actually build that trust and that relationship with someone. Because let's say you're looking to build a house and you see someone's ad the first time, you're not going to go, I trust that person. But if you receive 50 emails from them over half a year, by that stage, you're like, oh, this guy actually knows what he's talking about. If you're retargeted then and you see their videos all over the place, and all of a sudden you're like, I can trust this person. And that's the same whether you're a mortgage broker or a real estate agent or anything. It's a trust game because more money, more trust. You have more touches are required and needed. So yeah,
Mhm. I do a lot of theater acting, and I've been doing that thoroughly for about since I was 25, so going on a few years now. And I remember one of the earliest shows that I did. It wasn't a great show. I didn't like it. Neither did the other members of the cast. We were talking backstage about it wasn't very good, and that was when I heard the term that you can't polish a turd.
yes,
That, like, if the script is bad, it doesn't matter how good your performance is, it doesn't matter. It's just not good, and it's
Mm.
not gonna work. Um,
Yes.
and so you can put all the energy and money and effort, but it's still gonna go the way of the turd, so to speak. Do you think when it comes to copy, that copy is the reason it works, or do you think it's more the offer that trumps the copy?
I think I think if you've got a bad offer, I had this experience early on. I changed the offer just on a normal sales page. I 4x the response, the results. So, and that
Wow.
was just the offer. The copy stayed the same. So I think the offer is incredibly important, and I think the positioning really matters a lot as well. I had an experience when I to give you an idea when I changed to being, and this was when I was about 20 mid 20s, so this is over 2 decades ago. When I changed to being a copywriter from a marketing consultant, my income admittedly from a low base, but it 10x'd literally overnight. Like I
Wow.
just went it just went bang, and I hit the market at the right. It was the right. Like the market shifted a lot since then, but back then there was no. I wasn't. You know, I was obviously okay, but I wouldn't say I was nowhere near as good as I am today. Certainly not brilliant, but there wasn't a lot of competition. The market needed it, and I was in demand. So it's very so that's what you're looking for. Is you're looking for a market where there's low competition in demand. So you look at the example which I've shown there, which is often a positioning like is a positioning thing. You can be offering exactly the same thing, but you've positioned it differently. So that builder that I was talking about, where they position themselves as the specialists in for people building developments, they're doing the same thing that they've always done. They just changed the positioning, and that's what I did. So those opportunities are everywhere. It's like with this, right? Like you can't quite see it because we're doing this on Riverside, but on Zoom, like I changed the way I angled my camera. And before it was just me up against a wall and the lighting wasn't right and I didn't look right. Now I look far more, my background looks far more expansive and all of that sort of thing. It's the same. I'm in the same place. I just shifted the screen and the way the camera looked. And
Mm.
that's very similar with the way you position yourself. It's often you're not doing anything different. You're doing exactly the same thing, but you're
Wearing a
changing your
polo or
positioning.
wearing a shirt or just some elevation, whether you're high price, low price, accessible, premium, accessible, making those decisions, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's just making those decisions on positioning, but those decisions are based on a lot of deep thought.
Mm, mm.
And that's really the key is understanding and being able to join the dots on all of those pieces so that you're sitting in a blue ocean.
Mm.
You're like the person. Sometimes it requires competitor research. Like we did this with a buyer's agent, and we looked at all of the competitors and what is it. And we did like a blue ocean chart, and we worked out a niche which wasn't being addressed. So then he could go into that area, still offering the same thing, but positioning so that now people go, oh, they can actually do what, and sometimes you might need to change your offering, right? Sometimes you might need to change what you do. Like if you're a builder and you're doing cost plus and all of a sudden you decide you want to do fixed price, you do need to change your operations to be able to, your operational structure to be able to deliver that. Uh, but it doesn't need to be, and that can actually take you to the next level operationally as well.
Mm. Marketing strategy has been something that I love. I love strategy. Strategy excites me the most. When I did my marketing degree at uni, strategic marketing was my favorite. Um,
Yes.
I just loved principles and using SWOT analysis and looking at positioning charts and actually like going deep into that. And I feel that like when I left that and went into the world of sales and marketing, those skills or those ideas were kind of put aside. It was almost like we don't have time for that. We don't have time to do that. We need to get out there and hustle and make it happen and get out there and sell and put some ads up and make it happen. I don't really hear many people talking about those traditional sort of strategic marketing tools. And what excites me is what kind of excites me and concerns me at the same time, that your skill set in copywriting would be not and sound it's functional, right? It's copywriting, but the secret of why it's worked for you is not about the copy.
I mean, even Gary Benzavenga, who's arguably the world's greatest modern day copywriter, uh, he said it's 40% research, 40% writing, 20% editing. I've always found it's even less in the writing. It's more in the editing and the research, which is a critical part. So yeah, like it's you're looking at, in order to get the words right, there's a heck of a lot that needs to happen. It's like the iceberg, right? There's a heck of a lot that's underneath that
Mm,
people don't see. Like if you see someone's, let's say, so I'm just thinking of it like the Nudie brand as an example, right? That Nudie, yeah, and they sort of broke through, and they've
the
got
juice,
this,
the juice, right?
yeah, and they've got this funky little pictures and cartoon things and all of that sort of thing. It's very simple, right? You look at it and you go, "That's very simple." Now, I don't have privy to yeah, and they got these clever little wording and it's like funky and all that. No, I don't have privy to what they did behind the scenes, but I imagine there was a heck a lot of research that went on behind the scenes, that underneath the iceberg, and you're seeing like this tiny sort of tiny thing above the water, yeah, that's on there, on when you buy a bottle of nudie. That's what you're seeing, but I imagine there was tens of thousands of dollars invested in order to work out that this was the angle and this was a spot and this is how we do it all. And
Mm,
that's the way you really want to look at your marketing, is go slower. Like if you look at anyone who talks about construction, right? And it's very similar to copywriting and to marketing. So if you go to a builder and they're like, "Yeah, mate, it's going to be about 800 grand." Yeah, and there's all these allowances in there and all that sort of thing. And then you get into building, you want to get started quick. You get into building, they go, "Oh, you know what? We didn't, we had an allowance for for the thing, and it's on a bit of a slope, so it's going to cost an extra 40 grand, to level it all out." And then there's another allowance and another allowance, another allowance, and all of a sudden you're up for 1.2 million or whatever. So so or so that's the fast way of where you get started fast. Or you go with a slow, methodical builder who does it the right way. And he says,
mm,
"We need to slow down. I need to give you a fixed price." He goes through, and there's a lot of work in putting, he might even charge you an upfront cost to put together a quote, because it's not on a piece of paper. Like there's a lot of work and it's a research and brings it in. But then it's like, okay, this is going to cost you $1 million. And then it just flows because he's done his research up front and you know exactly what you're after. The marketing isn't quite that predictable, right? Because we're dealing with people and all of that sort of thing. But if you slow down, you get your positioning right, you understand the market, you understand you understand everything, and then you start to write your, do your landing pages, do your web copy, all of that sort of thing based on that, then your chances of success are just so much higher. I give the
Who should do
analogy.
that though? But who should do that? Because I think that not everyone in business wants to be a marketer, and not
Yep.
everyone sees themselves as a marketer, or they're busy.
Yep.
It's like research doesn't sound fun. It sounds intensive, and it sounds like you gotta be good at it to know what you're doing and what you're looking for. Should every business be? I mean, what you're saying is that everyone should be doing research. Every business should research their ideal customer and their market and understand and go deep. The question is, who should be doing that? Should it be the
Uh,
owner or should they outsource
yeah, and not every business, only the businesses that want to be successful.
it?
Uh,
So only the one, no one else wants to be successful. Everyone else wants to fail.
but who should do it? I mean, ideally you get an expert in to do it. Having said that, like I got massive insights by doing it myself. I called a client once and I said, this is a client, he'd been a client for years. And one of my first clients, I said, what's your biggest gripes with the marketing industry? Mate, I couldn't shut him up. He went on for like 15 minutes, just like, and it was a real eye opener for me because I'd known him forever, right? And I'm like, this is what people are actually thinking. So it changed the way that I sold as well with that in mind. So ideally it's not the business owner because clients are less likely to be honest with you. And also you're in an echo chamber. Like I'm in an echo chamber, you're in an echo chamber, all of us are in echo chambers, and it's hard to see the outside of the bottle when you're yeah, it's hard to see the label on the outside of the bottle when you're inside the bottle. So it's better to have some sort of someone else actually do it. But if you're failing that, like let's say you're a startup, yeah, it's your first year, you don't have any money, really do it yourself. And like that's better than not doing anything
Mm.
as such. So it's much better than not doing anything. So you've just got to work out where you're at in terms of what the best solution is for you.
Because if you're hiring a web person or a designer to do a flyer, or you're doing a Facebook advertiser or Google ads, and you're outsourcing all these different things to different people, right? And I
Yep.
think there's this thing where I'm going to trust them because they're the professional. I'm the client. I don't know what the best way is, so I'm outsourcing it over to you. And then I've got all these different people doing their thing. Um, Hoping that they're doing what you've just talked about in actually understanding and doing that research and actually understanding like the psychology of their target client.
I think trust the experts is one of the stupidest things you can do if you don't verify. Yeah, and we see that. I see that I see that with health. I don't trust any health experts, and for good reason, right? Because there's a lot of
Trust the science, mate.
yeah, trust the science exactly. It's like I don't trust anything. I want to understand what's going on before I put anything in my body or do anything. Whether they're medical, whether they're natural, it doesn't matter. Like eventually you look into it and you go, I get this, and they do know more than me, so I'm gonna trust them, but not without verifying everything
Yeah.
first. And the same with marketing. Very, very, very similar. You want to have some base foundational knowledge. Like go out there and read some Dan Kennedy books, or some Jay Abraham books, or some Claude Hopkins books, or get some base foundational knowledge so you know what the heck you're talking about, and just so you know what's good and what's bad. Yeah,
That's
what's
actually good advice. That's really
like
good advice.
yeah, because it doesn't matter if it's me or if it's some other agency. It doesn't matter who you hire. There's two things. Number one, they may not know what they're talking about, which is which happens in all industries. But number two, you, they're not going to. If someone's running an agency, it doesn't matter how much they care about you, and they've got 20 clients on the books. they're not going to be thinking about your business. They just can't, no matter how good their intentions are, as much as you are going to be thinking about your business. But if you come to them and you say, hey, we're running these ads, what do you think of running those ads? They'll go, hey, that's a great idea. Let's do it. So you can direct them rather than just handing responsibility over and then blaming them when it doesn't work. Yeah,
Mm.
which is what can tend to happen. Get knowledge so that you can be a partner among the amongst it. Do you know what I mean? Because marketing is a big area too, and like there's a lot of skill sets with marketing. Like we're just talking about messaging, but you got operations, you got automations, you got technical, and some marketers are better than at automations and technical, but they might not be good at the copywriting. So you sort of want to know what's going on so that you can guide them.
Yeah, understand and then outsource. So you know what it's like if you don't know how to sell and you hire a salesperson, you don't know what makes a good salesperson, then you're going to find it very difficult to manage and be in charge. Otherwise, you've lost your power completely. Um, I think that foundation of understanding your target market,
Yep.
profiling them, creating an offer and a message, and then working out where you're going to place that, whether it's going to be Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, TV, radio, direct mail. Obviously, logically, it makes sense, right? And, Dan Kennedy 101. And if I think people know, I think massive assumption. I'm assuming that most people in business understand or have at least heard they've got to understand their customer. That
Yeah.
I think they've heard it, but there's something that stops them going deep.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. And it's not the sexiest part. Like people go, "Oh, let's just go and run some ads. Let's just go and do this." Like we want and I think it's like that shortcut thinking, which we're all guilty of. I mean, if you can get the results with less effort, well, why wouldn't you do it? But in reality, you can't.
It's
It's
fast
like
food.
yeah, it's fast
Quick.
food.
Get it
Fast food.
done.
It's a fast food approach to marketing. Like, let's just get it
Yes.
up, whack a website up, do this, do that, do that. Oh,
Get
we're
it
ready
done.
to
Press the
ready
button,
to go.
launched.
Yeah. Yeah. And you see that so often. It's like that. It's like
Slop.
ticking it off. Yeah, it's ticking it off the checklist. I need a website. I need some brochures. I need this. I need that. We won't worry about what's in it or whether it's relevant or whether our customers even care about it. But we just want to tick that, tick the tick boxes to say that we've got it done.
Yeah.
And that's
But
the
how do
mistake.
you know you've gone deep? Like that's a skill, and I don't think everyone knows how to and what that actually means, because I think that the avatar exercise, even if it's simple with some wants, needs, fears, and frustrations, just those four things, and
Yep.
an age and an agenda or something geographic, a lot of people go, wow, that was really insightful and that's really cool. And possibly there's a story of going deeper or expanding on that is a waste of time because, I don't see that producing the profit or the ROI, or, maybe they've tried it before and maybe that's why they don't go deep. I'm curious as your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons people don't go deep, yeah, and I think it is often they don't know how. Yeah, like what am I going to do? Like I just imagine if I just started a business, I didn't know anything about marketing. Like, what do I do? What do I ask? How do I do it? Uh, that's that sort of thing. Like, it's hard. And even if you learn about avatars, how do you actually get in there? Get in there and actually understand it. But if I was to shortcut that process, like let's say someone doesn't have the budget and they're just like to hire a consultant, just talk to people. Yeah, it's like if you want to know what your team thinks and you're an employer. Well, the only way to know is to talk to them and ask
What
them.
would you what are some foundational questions that you would ask some if you were doing an interview
Yep.
for a business? What would be some of the absolute must ask questions that you would ask them to sort of go deep?
I mean, the first one I ask is, like what was going through your mind? Like let's say you went and bought a bed or something, and I was interviewing you for the bed shop. I'd say, what was going through your mind which triggered you to buy a bed? And you might go, oh, I had crippling back pain, or I had whatever. To me, there isn't a list of questions. Then it's like I'm pulling the thread, pulling the thread, pulling the thread, pulling the thread, based on what they've said. So you're sort of segueing it. It's like a boxing match. I mean, it's probably not the best analogy because you're not fighting with someone, but you don't know exactly what the next move's going to be. It happens, or judo or something like that. You're making the
Right.
move based on the conversation, but there's things that you're trying to work out. What was the buyer's journey? Like did they talk to a friend who recommended you, or did they look at 50 blog posts and listen to 100 podcasts before they did it? What was the so what was it? What was the decision criteria? What were they basing it on? Yeah, if it's a bed, was it partner disturbance they were concerned about? Was it the comfort? Was it getting rid of their back pain? Was it the fact that the bed could, go up and down, and that way you wouldn't snore, and you guys wouldn't bother each other? So you're asking these sort of questions to get like really clear. What were the red flags in the buying process? Maybe a salesperson was too pushy at certain stages, and that put you off, or what was happening? What was happening there? So you're digging into all of these in-depth questions to really understand the buyer's journey, not just the avatar, but the buyer's journey and what was going on throughout that process. So then you can shift the way that you do things and change it. And this gives all sorts of advertising ideas. For instance, that partner disturbance one, you talk with a few clients, you find out that's a big issue. All of a sudden, your ad, does your partner wake you up all night? If so, watch this video. Like that's a thing that you may not have thought of if you hadn't have done those interviews. So that's where it becomes very powerful in giving you all those advertising ideas that you can then split test and run with your agency and that sort of thing.
Right. So I think the word is curiosity, but also being that salesperson of like, if you're having a conversation with someone, you're going to probe, you're going to go a bit deeper, you're going to ask more about what they've said. So they might say something and you want more clarity on what they've said. So you just ask a little bit more and then they open up. Is that the approach? Like,
Yeah, curiosity. I think curiosity is so big, and I think as humans, we're not curious enough. We tend to get in, and we're all guilty of this. We get in our little ruts,
mm,
and we just do the same thing rather than asking those questions. I really understand my customer. Actually, you don't, because you're just talking with them in the sales process. And if you actually get deep, and plus you don't have enough quantity, so even doing a survey, like an email survey, will give you amazing quantity of results, and then you can tabulate it like a library, right? So you get 100 responses, and you're like, oh, 80% of my clients are worried about this. I had no idea, because you can't work that out on day-to-day conversations. Your mind can't tabulate all that data. Do you know what I mean? And work it out. And you just think of recency bias, and you think this is a problem. When you go into the data, you actually see what the real problem is with that research. And if you've got an email list, that's another good research tool, is sending out a survey to your list.
you're really inspiring, dude, because you, I mean, the foundations of marketing make sense to me. Like, simple, understand customer, message, media, right? But you took it another step deeper. I mean, deeper again, like about that action of interviewing the customer, like actually getting on the phone, having real conversations rather than making up stuff. For me, is a game changer
Yep. Yeah.
because no one does it.
No. No. It's and Robert Collier said, he wrote the book, the Robert Collier letter book, a great big thick blue book. If anyone hasn't, well, probably most people won't have read it, but it's a great book. But he said the secret to advertising is entering the conversation going on in the customer's mind. Well, my question is, how do you enter the conversation going on in someone's mind without actually talking to them? Because most of us aren't psychic. Yeah, there's a few people out there who are probably psychic, but most I'm not. Yeah, most of us aren't.
Let me get my tarot deck out and I'll let you know. I think if people can take away, number one, interview customers, get to know them. The best ones, the people that you want to attract more of, understand them. And I think just that and profiling it and getting clear on that will help you brief your website guy, your flyers, whoever's doing the other work for you, your Facebook ads person, your Google ads person, all of that together. That information will feed them. So, I know as a marketer, if a client gave me that, they said, I just interviewed 3 customers. Here's the transcriptions of those interviews. Over to you. I'd be like, that's gold. Thank you so much.
Yes. And you can come up, how do you be unique? How do you stand out? That's one of the best ways, because you will get the golden data and you'll have all these angles and hooks that your clients who are punching it into, and nothing wrong with doing research with ChatGPT and AI tools. They can be quite useful. But the stuff that you're getting is like, it is direct, it is source, it's exact words that they're using. And what you want them to say when they read your ad or go to your website or go to your landing page is, finally, someone gets me. Finally, someone gets me. They're the words you want. And the best way to do that is to understand your customer at a deeper level than anyone else does.
And that's saying, if you can explain their problem to them better than they can, they will naturally and unconsciously believe that you have the solution.
Yeah, it's like the doctor who says, you go into the doctor and he says, do you get an itch behind your leg at 3:17 a.m.?
No, it's actually
morning?
itching right now.
And you're like, how did you know that? And it builds
You're a
that
genius.
instant trust, So, yeah.
Scott, I want to thank you so much for your time. You're a very talented man, and you've just dropped some gold today. And I think if people can take that and implement it, they're going to see dramatic results in their marketing. So I just want to thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, no, you're welcome, Michael. It's been great to be here, and thanks for having me.
My pleasure.